Longbox Legends, the only show not approved by the Comic Code Authority. I'm your host, the Longbox Legend, and I love comic books, which shouldn't come as a surprise if you watch that intro. But yeah, I love comic books, I love superheroes, I'm like Winston Dever from Incredibles 2. That guy, played by Saul Goodman. Because of this, I get a lot of questions about how to get into comics or how to start collecting comics, so I'm going to answer all those questions in this brand new series of mine that I call Comic Collecting 101.
Blah, duh. Ooh!
Look at that, we got a new intro and everything for this series, which will cover a plethora of questions and information that I feel will be helpful to any collector, new or experienced. So, if you have a passion for comics or want to know how to get started, then welcome to Episode 1, Lawn Boxes. Yes, the Lawn Box, the namesake of this show, an essential component for any comic book collector. There are actually different types of lawn boxes you can get. Let's start with the common white cardboard box. You can get a short box with a movable top, which is great for stacking, but leaves you with little room for your comics, as opposed to the traditional lawn box, which has a removable top and a lot of space for a lot of books. Unfortunately, the longer boxes have proven to be a little more flimsy and not great for stacking, as their shorter brethren. Also, stacking them can make it difficult to get to your comics or add to them. A popular type of lawn box is the filing cabinet, which allows you to pull them out like a filing cabinet. Downside to it though is the space you'll need if you want to reach the back of the box. If you're not a fan of the drab white design, comic book companies actually sell specialty lawn boxes. They're made of a less bendable material and sport some cool comic art. But if you're a collector on a budget, then you don't exactly need these. Whether you're a collector, someone suffering from OCD, or both, probably both, then you know that it's always important to organize your items. Some people may organize their comics by hero, company, or year, but I like to use the classic alphabetical system order. Too bad, organizing comics is a lot harder than it sounds, so let me show you how I do it. When organizing your comics, there are three important aspects to know: title, number, and volume. Title refers to the name of the comic, which is usually the most blatant thing on it. The title of this comic is The Amazing Spider-Man. I would put this under A because of the amazing part of the title, and not because of the. I have never been a fan of putting anything under T, just because it has the in the title. Next is number. Sometimes the number of the comic can be hard to find, depending on the cover or the year it's from, but it's usually spotted here, in the corner. So, this is number 796, so I put it between 795 and 797. Next comes volume, which is what a lot of people don't know about. You see, when a comic reaches a crazy high number, is in need of a relaunch, or they want to try to get new readers into the series, comic companies usually give their comics a brand new number 1. So because of that, you may have several of the same titles that say number 1, but are completely different stories. Just because it says number 1 does not mean it's the first of its kind. I have 3 different Amazing Spider-Man number 1s, and they couldn't be more different from each other. That's why we have volumes, to kind of keep track of what number 1 this is. This is the 3rd Amazing Spider-Man number 1, so that makes this Volume 3. So every Amazing Spider-Man in this series will be labeled as such. Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 3, number 1. Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 3, number 2, and so on and so forth until the next relaunch, which would be this one, Volume 4. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 1, but because it's the 4th number 1, this is Volume 4. And that's how we're going to be able to do this. Even though this is the 5th number 1, I don't label it as Volume 5. And I'll save for why in a different Comics 101 that deals with legacy numbering, because that's a whole entire different beast. But yes, volumes are a very important factor of comic collecting that you must know if you're going to have an organized collection and know what comic you have. Now you have your comics organized in your lawn box, you may think you're done. And you are. there's one last step that I feel is important that you may not deem necessary, but let's take a look anyway. I keep all my comics in the white lawn boxes, and as you can see, they're very similar, and with them stacked on top of each other, hard to get to. So I label each box with a number in black Sharpie. It can be a number, a letter, a logo, whatever you like. Next, make a document for each box and what's the first comic in it through the last. I have a list of every comic I have, which is good if you need to know what issue is missing from your collection, and also helpful if you're looking for something in particular. For instance, say I want to read Mighty Thor number 700. I look at my box list and see that box 10 has Marvel vs. DC number 4 all the way to Nova number 1. So obviously, Mighty Thor number 700 will be somewhere in between. This is also helpful when adding comics to your collection as well. There's my comic, and I believe the end of this video. Thank you for watching Comic Collecting 101. What we went over was kinda basic, but you must always start with the basics, no matter what you do in life. We will be exploring other aspects of comic collecting like variants, grading, signatures, and more, so please be sure to like and subscribe, and comment about any other questions you may have about comics and collecting, and we will answer them here. I'm your host, the Longbox Legend, and I'll see you on the next issue.